My coworker Claire tried to frame me for something I didn't do. She looked me straight in the eye and said, "It's your word against mine." At that moment, I knew this was going to be a fight for my career and my reputation. But what Claire didn't realize was that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had a plan, and when she saw how I turned the tables on her, it was already too late. I'm Sarah, and this is the story of how I proved my innocence, exposed the truth, and reclaimed my life. If you've ever faced betrayal or felt powerless against lies, you'll understand what I went through. Stay with me. Before everything spiraled out of control, my life at work felt stable and promising. I'm Sarah, a project coordinator at a growing marketing firm in my early 30s. I took pride in my role, always striving to be reliable, thorough, and collaborative. My coworkers knew me as someone who worked hard, stayed late when needed, and never shied away from taking responsibility. Outside of work, my support system was strong. My younger brother, Liam, who was fiercely protective and always ready with practical advice, and my mother, Helen, who had a calming presence and the wisdom of experience. They were my pillars, grounding me whenever life threw challenges my way. The office itself was a place I enjoyed. It was bustling with energy, filled with creative minds, and led by managers who valued teamwork and integrity. Most days, I looked forward to collaborating with my team and contributing to projects that I cared deeply about. Among my colleagues was Claire. At first, Claire and I had a cordial working relationship. She was ambitious and seemed friendly enough. I remember thinking she had the kind of drive that could take her far, but I never imagined she would become my biggest adversary. Before the conflict began, there was a sense of trust, or at least neutrality between us. I respected her professionalism, and she acknowledged my efforts on shared projects. We even shared a few laughs over coffee breaks, and I never saw any red flags. I thought we had an understanding, a basic workplace camaraderie. But beneath that surface, Claire was watching and waiting, and I was completely unaware of what was brewing. At home, life was a refuge. Liam and I had a close bond, often sharing the ups and downs of our days. Helen was always ready with advice or a comforting word, reminding me of my strengths when I doubted myself. I cherished our small family moments, knowing they were my anchor in a sometimes chaotic world. I shared my work experiences with them regularly, including the positive things about my job and occasionally the small frustrations everyone faces. But nothing prepared me for the storm that was coming. In those days, I felt confident in my career path. I was diligent, meticulous, and deeply committed to the projects I managed. I believed that integrity and hard work would speak for themselves, that eventually my contributions would be recognized. My colleagues, including Claire, seemed to appreciate my reliability. I was involved in key projects, trusted with important tasks, and even had the support of a few managers who saw my potential. One afternoon, I remember casually mentioning to Liam how things were going at work. "It's a good team," I said, smiling. "Everyone's busy, but it feels like we're making real progress." He nodded, giving me a supportive look. "Just keep your head down and your work solid," he advised. His words stuck with me, though I didn't anticipate needing that advice so soon. Looking back, I realized that the calm before the storm was deceptive. I was unaware of the undercurrent swirling around me. Claire's ambition masked a willingness to manipulate, and what began as simple workplace competition soon turned into a personal vendetta. The friendly atmosphere gave way to suspicion and tension, though I couldn't pinpoint the cause at first. The cracks started to show when a costly error was discovered on a major client project, and Claire suddenly pointed the finger at me. Before that moment, my emotional state was one of hope and stability. I was focused, motivated, and trusted by my peers. I felt secure in my role and optimistic about my future. I had no reason to believe that my world would soon be upended by false accusations and betrayal. But as Claire's accusations spread, that sense of security shattered. The confidence I had built began to erode, replaced by anxiety, confusion, and fear. The foundation of my professional and personal life was about to be tested in ways I never imagined. This is where the real story begins. The story of how trust was broken, how I faced an unfair fight, and how I found the strength to defend myself against all odds. The moment Claire accused me of causing a costly mistake at work, my world shifted. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She stood there with a cold and calculated look, saying it was my fault that a major project had nearly fallen apart. Her words hit me like a punch. I knew I hadn't made the mistake, but suddenly it felt like everyone else believed her version. The tension in the office was palpable as whispers spread and colleagues began to look at me with doubt. I felt trapped in a nightmare where my reputation was being shredded and there was little I could do to stop it. Claire's statement, "It's your word against mine," was like a challenge thrown in my face. It was clear she had prepared for this moment, confident that her version would be accepted because she was louder, more assertive, and perhaps more cunning. I was left scrambling for ways to defend myself against accusations that felt both unjust and overwhelming. Fear gnawed at me. Not just the fear of losing my job, but the fear of losing everything I had worked so hard for, including the respect of my colleagues and my own self-confidence. The emotional turmoil was crushing. I found myself questioning whether I was being paranoid or if Claire really was trying to sabotage me. I replayed every interaction, every project detail, searching for any misstep I might have overlooked. The workplace, once a place of creativity and collaboration, turned into a battleground. I noticed the shift in how people treated me. Some avoided eye contact, others whispered behind my back, and a few outright doubted me. The isolation was suffocating. I tried to confront Claire privately, hoping to clear the air or at least understand why she was doing this. When I found her in the break room, I gathered my courage and said, "Claire, I didn't cause that mistake. Why are you blaming me?" She looked at me with a chilling smile and said, "Sometimes it's about who's louder and who's believable. It's your word against mine, Sarah. Guess who they'll listen to?" Her words were meant to intimidate, and for a moment they worked. I left feeling defeated, but also more determined than ever not to let her win. Desperate for help, I approached HR, hoping the company's policies and procedures would protect me. I gathered every email, report, and document related to the project, trying to piece together evidence that would prove my innocence. But the process was slow, bureaucratic, and frustrating. The HR team seemed hesitant to take immediate action, caught between wanting to be fair and not wanting to stir up conflict. I was left in limbo, watching as Claire continued her campaign to discredit me. The pressure mounted when I noticed some colleagues starting to distance themselves. Rachel, who had once been friendly, suddenly avoided sharing tasks with me. Even some managers seemed cautious, unsure of whom to believe. It felt like I was fighting this battle alone, and the stress seeped into every part of my life. Nights became sleepless as I worried about my future and my ability to clear my name. Despite the overwhelming odds, I refused to give up. The support of my family became my lifeline. My brother Liam called regularly, reminding me of my strength and encouraging me to keep fighting. My mother, Helen, offered words of comfort and practical advice, urging me to stay calm and focused. Their unwavering faith in me helped me push through the darkest moments. One of the most painful parts of this ordeal was the emotional toll on my confidence. I began to doubt myself, wondering if maybe Claire's accusations held some truth. It took conscious effort every day to remind myself of my integrity and the quality of my work. I refused to let false accusations define who I was or dictate my future. As the situation escalated, I realized that I needed to take control. The fight wasn't just about disproving Claire's claims. It was about reclaiming my dignity and my place in the company. I began strategizing, consulting with my mentor Mark and trusted colleagues to build a solid case. I gathered evidence meticulously, prepared statements, and rehearsed how to present my side clearly and calmly. The tension reached its peak when I scheduled the formal meeting with HR and senior management. This was the moment I had been preparing for, the chance to tell my story, present the truth, and finally set things right. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to stand my ground. This rising tension, filled with fear, isolation, and growing resolve, set the stage for the turning point. It was a test of my strength and resilience, one that would define not only my career, but also my self-worth. After Claire's cold challenge, "It's your word against mine," I realized I couldn't rely on hope or silence anymore. The situation demanded action, and I had to be deliberate and strategic if I wanted to clear my name and protect my future. The first step was to gather every scrap of evidence that could prove my innocence beyond a doubt. I began by combing through all the emails, project files, and meeting notes related to the incident Claire accused me of. I printed copies of every relevant document, highlighting timestamps, correspondences, and contributions that clearly showed my involvement and diligence. I even requested access to security footage from the office, hoping to find visual proof that could support my claims. The process was exhausting, but necessary. I knew that facts and proof would be my strongest defense against Claire's false accusations. Alongside this, I reached out to trusted colleagues who had worked closely with me on the project. Some were hesitant at first, offices or political environments, and no one wants to get involved in conflicts. But a few agreed to support me and provide witness statements if needed. Knowing that I had allies who could vouch for my professionalism and honesty gave me renewed confidence. Their backing wasn't just useful for the investigation. It reminded me that I wasn't alone in this fight. My family played an essential role during this time. My younger brother Liam became my rock, offering not just emotional support but practical advice on how to handle stress and confront the situation calmly. Our nightly calls helped me maintain perspective and reminded me to stay grounded. My mother Helen's wisdom was invaluable. She encouraged me to remain patient and persistent, telling me, "Truth has a way of coming out. Just keep your head high and your heart strong." Their belief in me was a shield against the self-doubt that tried to creep in. I also sought guidance from my mentor, Marcus, who had years of experience navigating corporate politics. Marcus was a steady voice of reason, helping me frame my case in a professional manner that would resonate with HR and senior management. He advised me to keep my emotions in check during the upcoming meetings, focus on facts, and clearly articulate how the false accusation affected my work and well-being. His mentorship was crucial in preparing me for the showdown. The next step was to formally request a meeting with HR and company leadership. I submitted a detailed report summarizing the timeline of events, the evidence I had gathered, and the impact the accusations had on my job and reputation. I requested a fair hearing where I could present my case and be heard. The company couldn't ignore the issue any longer. When the day of the meeting arrived, I walked into the conference room with my folder of documents, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. Claire was there, confident as ever, but I could sense her composure was thinner than usual. I had rehearsed my presentation multiple times, and I was ready to speak clearly and calmly. As the meeting began, I carefully laid out my evidence. I explained the steps I had taken on the project, presented emails that showed my direct involvement, and shared witness accounts from colleagues who supported my version of events. I emphasized how Claire's accusation was not only false but damaging to my career and mental health. Throughout, I maintained a professional tone, knowing that my credibility was just as important as the facts. Claire tried to defend herself, but without concrete evidence, her arguments sounded defensive and shaky. When confronted with the documents and testimonies, she struggled to maintain her stance. I saw the frustration build behind her mask, a stark contrast to her earlier bravado. Human resources and senior management listened attentively, asking clarifying questions and reviewing the evidence. Marcus, my mentor, spoke up in support of my case, reinforcing the validity of the facts I presented. Their reaction was encouraging. It was clear they were taking the matter seriously and that my preparation was making an impact. The meeting lasted longer than I expected, but when it concluded, I felt a surge of relief. I had told my story, shown my proof, and stood my ground. I wasn't just defending myself. I was reclaiming my dignity and fighting for fairness. This turning point wasn't just about winning a dispute, it was about transforming from a silent victim into an empowered professional. The experience taught me the importance of resilience, strategy, and the courage to confront injustice head on. It showed me that no matter how difficult the situation, being prepared and having support can make all the difference. I left the meeting knowing that the next steps would be crucial. The company's response would determine my future there, but I was ready for whatever came next. I had taken control of the narrative, and I was no longer at the mercy of Claire's lies. The day of the formal meeting was the most important day of my career so far, and I felt the weight of it pressing down on me as I entered the conference room. This was the moment where all the evidence, all the preparation, and all my courage would be put to the test. Claire was already there, sitting with a calm but guarded demeanor. I noticed a flicker of unease in her eyes, a subtle crack in the facade she had maintained for so long. I knew this confrontation would change everything. I began by laying out my case methodically, presenting the evidence I had painstakingly gathered. I showed the emails where Claire had forwarded my work as her own, the project drafts that bore my name and handwriting, and the meeting notes that documented my contributions. I highlighted timestamps that proved I was responsible for key parts of the project and shared testimonies from colleagues who had witnessed my work firsthand. As I spoke, I maintained a clear and steady voice, determined to keep the focus on facts rather than emotions. The faces around the table shifted as the truth became undeniable. Some managers exchanged glances, while HR representatives nodded as they reviewed the documents. I felt a surge of confidence growing inside me. This was not just about defending myself, it was about reclaiming my integrity and demonstrating the value of truth and hard work. Mark, my mentor, was present and spoke up in my favor. His words carried weight, reinforcing my claims with the respect he had earned in the company over the years. "Sarah has been a vital part of our team," he said. "The evidence clearly shows her dedication and that she was wrongly accused." Hearing him stand by me made me realize I had not been alone in this fight. Claire tried to defend herself, but her arguments grew weaker as the evidence spoke louder than words. She attempted to shift blame and create doubt, but the facts were irrefutable. The tension in the room rose as she struggled to keep her composure, her confident mask slipping away. I saw the realization dawn on her face that her plan to frame me was unraveling. The meeting went on longer than I expected, with HR carefully considering the information and discussing the next steps with senior leadership. I listened as they deliberated, feeling both anxious and hopeful. I knew this moment was pivotal, not only for my career, but for my sense of justice. When the decision was finally announced, it was clear I had won. The company officially cleared my name and acknowledged the wrongful accusation. Claire was reprimanded and removed from her leadership role as a consequence of her misconduct. I was offered a promotion and public recognition for my work, a validation that felt both humbling and empowering. The shift in power dynamics was dramatic. Claire, who had once seemed untouchable, found herself isolated and facing the fallout of her actions. I saw the shock and disbelief in her eyes as she realized the consequences she could no longer avoid. It was a stark reversal from the position she had tried to wield over me. But for me, the victory was about more than just Claire's downfall. It was about reclaiming my voice, my work, and my future. It was a testament to perseverance, integrity, and the strength that comes from standing up for yourself. I had transformed from someone who felt helpless to a person who controlled her destiny. This experience also highlighted the importance of having allies. Without Mark's guidance, my family's support, and the backing of a few courageous colleagues, I might not have had the strength to prevail. Their belief in me was a constant reminder that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. Returning to work after the ordeal, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The respect I earned changed how colleagues treated me, and the workplace atmosphere improved. I was no longer the person who was doubted, but a valued member of the team. The office, once a place of anxiety, became a place where I could thrive. Looking back, I see that the climax of this story was not just a confrontation, but a turning point in my life. It taught me that truth and preparation can overcome even the most unfair challenges. It showed me that standing firm in your integrity is one of the most powerful things you can do. The lessons I carry from this are clear. Never underestimate your strength. Always gather your facts and surround yourself with those who believe in you. No matter how difficult the fight, perseverance and truth can lead to justice and healing. This moment marked the end of a difficult chapter and the beginning of a new one, a chapter where I no longer let fear or false accusations dictate my life. It was the day I truly took control. After the storm of accusations and the intense battle to clear my name finally settled, I found myself standing on new ground, stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever before. The aftermath wasn't just about professional vindication. It became a profound journey of personal growth and healing. For so long, I had wrestled with the fear of losing my job, my reputation, and my sense of self. Now, I realized that those fears had been met and conquered through resilience, courage, and the unwavering support of those who stood by me. In the weeks and months that followed, my relationships deepened, both at work and at home. My younger brother Liam continued to be my rock, reminding me daily of my worth and encouraging me to keep moving forward. His faith in me helped heal the wounds left by the ordeal. My mother, Helen's steady presence and wise counsel grounded me, helping me focus on the future rather than lingering in the pain of the past. Their support reminded me that no matter what challenges come, family is a foundation that can never be taken away. At work, the shift was palpable. I was no longer the quiet, overlooked employee shadowed by false accusations. My colleagues began to see me in a new light, as someone who had stood firm under pressure and emerged victorious. The promotion I received was more than just a title. It was a symbol of the respect I had earned through perseverance and integrity. The company culture shifted too, with leadership making it clear that honesty and accountability were values they would uphold. This change created a healthier, more supportive environment where I could thrive without fear. One of the most rewarding outcomes was the chance to support others. Having been through a situation where I felt isolated and vulnerable, I became determined to be an advocate for fairness and integrity in the workplace. I started mentoring newer employees, encouraging them to speak up when faced with injustice and to seek support when needed. I wanted to create a ripple effect, helping to foster a culture where no one would feel powerless or alone. This experience taught me invaluable lessons about boundaries and self-advocacy. Being professional does not mean tolerating mistreatment or false accusations. It means standing firm, knowing your value, and protecting your well-being. I learned to trust my instincts and to gather evidence, not out of suspicion, but as a means of empowerment and self-protection. On a deeper level, the ordeal reshaped how I viewed myself. I stopped measuring my worth by the opinions of others and began defining success on my own terms. The experience was a painful but necessary catalyst for growth. It pushed me to become more assertive, confident, and resilient. I understood that true strength comes not from never facing adversity, but from how you respond when adversity strikes. Looking back, I no longer see Claire as a villain who tried to destroy me, but as a chapter that tested my character and ultimately made me stronger. Her betrayal exposed vulnerabilities, but also ignited a transformation that shaped who I am today. I chose to rise rather than fall, to reclaim my narrative rather than let it be rewritten by lies. The biggest takeaway I want to share is this. No matter how unfair or overwhelming a situation feels, you have the power to change your story. Standing up for yourself is never easy, but it is always worth it. Your voice matters, your work matters, and your integrity is your strongest asset. If you are facing a similar challenge, know you are not alone. Seek out your support system. Gather your strength, and don't hesitate to fight for the respect and recognition you deserve. Sometimes the toughest battles lead to the most meaningful victories. Today, my career continues to grow, but more importantly, I have peace. Peace knowing I stood my ground, remained true to myself, and earned every success honestly. This journey changed me in ways I never expected. It taught me resilience, courage, and the importance of self-advocacy. It reminded me that the hardest fights often lead to the greatest growth. Most importantly, it showed me that when you take control of your story, even the darkest chapters can become a source of strength and hope. That is the legacy of this story. Not just a tale of workplace conflict, but a testament to the power of perseverance, truth, and standing firm in who you are.